Joining us is Marin Katusa, Chief Energy Strategist, KC Research. He was a mathematics professor before he left academics to apply his models to portfolio management. He's a sought-after portfolio manager and a sought-after speaker, CNBC, RT, CBC, writes for the Business Network News. And he also is the founding director of Copper Mountain, Canada's third largest copper mine. And he's Chief Energy Strategist for KC Research. Over the years, Martin has been involved in raising over $1 billion in capital for early stages and producing resource companies. So he is a true trailblazing entrepreneur. Colderwar.com to break down his book. Sir, thank you for coming on today. I want to get into Russia, the inside baseball, where energy policy is going, what's happening with the oil war. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, you've got the floor. Start breaking down where we are right now from an inside perspective.
Alex, it's very scary what the West, America, the European Union, they're starting to play Russian roulette. And Putin is not backing down. He's putting more forces to eastern Ukraine, and now Obama's leaked some documents stating that the Americans may supply lethal artillery and weapons and manpower. So more boots, more American boots, more American weaponry in Ukraine. You don't want to put more sanctions on Russia because now Greece has vetoed these. But more importantly, the existing sanctions have pushed Russia and China closer together than ever before. They're doing hundreds of billions of dollars worth of deals, the largest construction project in the world. And all this is doing is uniting the Russian bear and the Chinese dragon, and that is the worst possible outcome for America and the West.
It's a very bold strategy to send in CIA commandos and others to be engaging the Russians in combat the last 6 months. That's basically admitted $5 billion to overthrow the Ukrainian government. I don't have a dog in the fight here. It's just clear the West is instituting and instigating all this. Sure, they're hurting Russia right now, driving down the price of oil, but long term, this is a really dangerous game. What do you think the Western powers are thinking?
Well, it's all about the NATO expansion. It's trying to expand Europe, the European Union. The EU is broke. Greece now, a real insignificant country when you look on the global scale, and by no means is a superpower, is now dictating the terms of the sanctions against Russia. So you can see the European Union is a basket case, and America is now being drawn into this because of the EU, and there really is nothing here positive for the average American here. The Ukraine conflict's getting worse. It's going to get worse. It's going to last longer, and it's just going to be a drain on the U.S. economy.
Well, when the West attacked Russian-held areas in Georgia, they miscalculated, and the Russians poured in and threatened nuclear war in Europe. I mean, if Russia's not backing down and the West isn't backing down, what are the policymakers thinking? It's not like Russia's on our southern border attacking us. We're attacking them.
Exactly, and the worst part of this, now you look at the Russian population within the eastern Ukraine. This is a secession war. This is not a civil war, and they want to join Russia. Look at Crimea. Putin has now hinted that because Crimea is now part of Russia, they have the sovereign right to move their nuclear weapons to Crimea, which is just on the edge of Europe. So there's a lot of risks here. And the difference is the Russian people are solely behind the Slavic warrior Putin. They defend what Putin is doing. They are proud of what Putin is doing because they see him standing up against the West. The question I have is, Obama's got 2 years left. What is the future foreign policy here? If the new president continues this failed foreign policy, it's just going to be a lot worse for Europe and the U.S. And the Russians here have nothing to lose. They have an expansionary program, and they're fit to fight, and they plan on fighting. They're not going to back down. So the question is what's the West going to do now?
Well, they just push and push and push because the people running the West are not Americans like a John Wayne or a Ronald Reagan. They want to export George Soros tyranny back to Russia. They want socialism for the general public and their own crony system above it, controlling it. And they're turning al-Qaeda loose all over the Middle East. What do you see in the grand strategy worldwide happening right now? What's the grand strategy? What's happening with the driving down oil prices? Break down your book for us, The Colder War, how the global energy trade slipped from America's grasp.
Alex, you're nailing all the most important parts here. I find it shocking that Obama and his wife go to Saudi Arabia, and King Salman, the new king of Saudi Arabia, in our book we have a chapter called The Shaky House Assad. How come no one's really talking about the truth of who King Salman? He was funding the Afghani extremists that the Americans were fighting. He was funding the Bosnian Muslim extremists that the West fought against. This is chaos, and now they're trying to show him as a great leader, as a moderate. That is all false. If you look into the past of King Salman, he was the financier. He was the point man for all of the funding of what today is ISIS. ISIS is getting stronger. Obama came out today and said, hey, let's relax. ISIS is not that big of a deal. Really? Ask the Japanese if ISIS is a big deal or not. ISIS is getting stronger. The Saudi Arabia, there's very vulnerable here. The price of oil is collapsing. The Bakken, the Eagleford, hundreds of billions of dollars of debt. We haven't even seen the debt roll over in the U.S. There's a lot of risk. And the debt that is potentially to blow up in the U.S. shale sector could be greater than what happened to the Lehman Brothers. This is a huge risk. And at the same time, they're trying to distract things with Ukraine. Ukraine is really an insignificant. What does EU get? It's the breadbasket of Eastern Europe. There's not much going on there other than major debt. Ukraine owes over $18 billion to Russia. So there's a lot of problems. I see worse controversy, more death, more wars, more battles in the Middle East. I see Eastern Europe getting worse. And more importantly, the emerging markets are working together, supporting Putin. Look what China's doing against the Western philosophy. So there really is a battle between the old world order and the new world order. And right now, it's the new world order that is winning.
So when you say new world order, you mean the people that run the U.S., England, Europe, you're saying they're winning?
No, actually, if you look at what's going on with China, they are backing the Russians.
So you're saying that's the new world order? Is
Correct.
That new world order they're calling for?
That's right, the emerging markets, because they want the lifestyle that the West is taken for granted, and they are going to work together against this. And really 1/3 of all of America's debt is owned by China, and China does not play by the UN's rules. If you look at all of voting on the UN, they've always backed Russia. Where's India here? There's a reason why Obama's putting so much time into India. Historically, India is going to align themselves up with Russia. Who's really supplying the military of India? It's Russia. China, Russia, India. The emerging markets are working together against the forces of Europe, Western Europe, and America. And right now, if you see, Ukraine is a good example of what's going on. Really who's winning here? The Russians are winning in the Ukraine.
Let me raise this point. We see mainstream articles in The Guardian out of Davos where George Soros is running around with his minions saying, you better give $100 trillion to the IMF and World Bank to help poor people. There's going to be a global uprising against wealth. And the billionaires are running off the Cook Islands and New Zealand and other areas, building armored redoubts and private long airstrips, and admitting it's because of this. But then meanwhile, Soros is trying to stir up civil unrest everywhere. What do you think's behind that?
Well, there's always an agenda. Where are his investments going? There's no secret that he was the funder of the Orange Revolution, the Rose Revolution in the early 2000s against Russia. This time is a bit different situation. The Russians are working together with China, and their forces are going to be working against that. So Soros has his agenda where his investments are. No one's asking, is he trying to protect his investments? There's no secret that Soros has been a big investor in Ukraine. He's potentially there to lose billions of dollars, so he's trying to use the government's money to bail out his own investments. So there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we don't see. Again, in the Middle East.
Well, that's right. I mean, he called for a Marshall Plan, tens of billions of dollars to be given basically directly to him.
Exactly. It's the American taxpayer that is funding his investments.
Well, I mean, I agree with you that up until about 6 months ago, Putin was beating the West. And again, I'm not lionizing him, but Putin's not here running things, trying to take my guns and running ads everywhere saying fathers are bad. I mean, we got a really sick elite, make no mistake. But I'd take the real American system any day over what Russia's got. So I'm not rooting against America. I'm just here looking at the tea leaves. But now since the Saudis and others slashed oil prices, or I know you're an expert on energy, so break that down for us, it seems like it's really hurting Russia, hurting the ruble. I mean, in a football game, it looks like the Devil Patriots are coming back a little bit.
Well, exactly. And what's key to understand here for Russia, why they are going to survive here, first of all, they're the world's largest crude oil producer, but they produce in rubles and they sell in euros and US dollars. So they won't experience Dutch disease. When you're a petrostate, when you're a real producer of oil, the worst thing you want is a decreasing commodity price and a strengthening dollar. So I will argue that the Bakken and the Eagle Ford are experiencing Dutch disease here because their costs are in US dollars and they sell in US dollars. So what this all about is international market share. You got the Arab Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, they are major producers and they're trying to increase their market share. Russia's a major producer, they're trying to increase their market share. And then the US shale sector has been hugely successful.
They're trying to bankrupt that.
Exactly, and this is a war against the U.S. shale sector. I put an article out that OPEC declared war on U.S. Thanksgiving Day, where all the analysts expected OPEC to cut production. I said, no way. They are not going to cut production because they're declaring war on America because America was the largest consumer of the OPEC oil, but now they're a competitor against OPEC.
The U.S. starting 2 years ago is the biggest producer in the world. And for those that don't know, this is in The Economist, this is in the Financial Times that are establishment mouthpieces. They admit Saudi Arabia and OPEC are waging war on us, just as they are on Russia. That's a perfect example of globalism. You think America against Russia? No. Or you think America against Russia or EU? The EU's getting hurt. The people are getting hurt by what's hurting Russia. This only helps a few insiders having all this unfold.
That's right. And you know what no one wants to talk about, Alex? Where did Saudi Arabia, before they saw the collapse in oil, they took billions of dollars positions on the short of oil. They shorted American companies. They shorted the U.S. production. And they made billions of dollars on the decrease of price of oil. How come no one's talking about that?
It's amazing. Establishment publications admit it, but, these average people out there, hurt Russia. It doesn't help anybody for a major country to do bad, folks. That ends up pulling everybody down. Let me ask you this. Seeing this global recessionary trend intensify, are you worried about deflationary or inflationary? And do you agree that Russia having trouble will hurt Europe and then ultimately pull down the Middle East and then the U.S.? I mean, I see this as a trigger event.
Alex, I think currently we are in a deflationary resource environment, and deflation is the worst thing for country planners because when you have less money to play with, you can't cover up. Look at the Arab Spring. What did Saudi Arabia do to prevent any revolutionary? They just created a lot of social program spending. That ends in a deflationary market, and deflation is very bad. What results from a deflationary environment is more global conflict, and that's what we see in Europe. That's what we see in the Middle East, and right now we haven't seen it yet in the U.S., but with all of these job layoffs that are going to come in the high-paying jobs of the Bakken, we are in a new and deflationary environment, which means more crises globally are going to occur. More battles, more wars, more deaths.
Energy battles. I mean, you see Russia now moving into the North Pole. We'll discuss all this and more. Then your phone calls are coming up. The book available at caseyresearch.com or colderwar.com. The Colder War by Marin, Katusa. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com because there is a war on for your mind. That's the whole point.
This hour brought to you by InfidelBodyArmor.com. When it hits the fan, don't be left without the body armor that will save your life. With prices starting at just $374.99 and ships free. Get yours at InfidelBodyArmor.com. Just won't quit.
Hi, Ted Anderson with Midas Resources. Is it time to convert paper 401ks and IRAs to solid gold and silver yet? Get our 10 Reasons book free. Call 800-686-2237. That's 800-686-2237.
Worried about getting sick and feeling terrible for days or even weeks? You need Immudyne for a healthy immune system. Why get sick and bother with products that just don't work? For just $1 a day, Immudyne is all natural and safe for all lifestyles. Call 866-257-8668 to buy now before it's too late, before you get sick. Or go to IMMUDYNE.com, Immudyne.com, or call 866-257-8668.
Interested in free Bitcoins? Stay tuned for more information. Are you worried about Big Brother watching your bank account? Frustrated with annoying fees? Concerned about unauthorized access to your account? What if there was a way to be your own bank? Bitcoin gives you a way to take back control of your money. The citizens of 2 large countries have already turned to Bitcoin when their economies collapsed. Unlike US dollars, there is a limited number of Bitcoins. The government cannot simply decide to print more. 8 million people are already using Bitcoin anonymously, with 90,000 retailers accepting them. Investors have put $4 billion into Bitcoin, with millions more being invested daily. BitRush.com is based in Texas and provides the most profitable way to own Bitcoins. To receive your own free Bitcoins, you can visit us at www.bitrush.com. bitrush.com. That's bitrush.com. Or call us at 1-800-200-8202. Again, that's bitrush.com or 1-800-200-8202 for free Bitcoins.
Silver has always been nature's very own antibiotic, and only one system allows you to generate